Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dolphins vs. the World. And as always, we're joined by the man behind the camera, our producer, Joel. And my co-host is with me again today. Anthony, how you feeling, buddy?
5-1, baby. This is just enjoy the wins while we have them, right?
Those words, or I don't think so.
Nothing's. What is it? 2002, I think was the last time.
I didn't know. I couldn't do 5 minus 1.
And my first season as a fan was 2007. So like I was 4 at that time. So I not that I am not it doesn't pertain to me that win or those 5-1, that 5-1 start. So,
but yeah, just an awesome game to be at. Started off, and we'll just get right into the sort of the breakdown of the game and then our thoughts about what we saw. But sort of not even like a bad start. It was just more like a slow start. Get down 14-0 early. But as I have in my name here, and like we were talking about, like they didn't really feel like there was anything to be concerned about. There was a little bit like I was kind of just like, this might be a game, and like, a couple more bad things. Like there could be some turnovers, something, and then it could get bad. But I wasn't at the point where I was like, the Dolphins have no chance in this game. Like I thought we'd still be able to win, maybe not by 21 points. I didn't think, but I still thought we'd be fine. How were you feeling when we went down 14?
Yeah, I felt the same as you. We were texting about it because you were at the game. So like we were texting about it, and you never want to go down 14-0, but I'll keep saying it, and it's with the utmost respect to what the Chiefs did. I'm not trying to claim we're the Chiefs. We haven't even won a playoff game, let alone a Super Bowl, right? But our offense is the best offense in NFL history statistically right now. And when the Chiefs were that high-powered offense, we used to see this all the time. You go into a game, right? I'm not going to use the word, but you F around, you screw around. You don't take your opponent that seriously. You go down 14-0, and then you're like, yeah, maybe we should like get our shit together. And then you score 35 unanswered points. Like that's like think about that. I want you to think about that. Not you. Well, I guess you too, but the Dolphins scored 42 points in 3 quarters. Like, so that is where we are as a team. And like, we'll talk about the defense and overall, I'm curious how you felt. I always love hearing your opinion because you're at the games and after going to a game, like it's such a difference in atmosphere. Like you can really get a feel. Like this game field. Oh my God. This is speaking of Justin Field. This game felt very like, I don't know. I feel like the Chargers game, the Patriots game, because it was like Sunday Night Football, the 70-point game, obviously. Like every game we've played up until this point has felt like there's been something super exciting, like the Devon A-Chain runs last week and stuff. And this week kind of just felt like a methodical, lukewarm ass whooping. Like it's one of those games where you're like, wow, we really scored 42 points because there was no real big plays other than the Tyreek bomb. Like I'm curious how it felt for you, because for me, like I kind of feel lukewarm, which is saying something considering we scored 42 points and held them to only 14. Like what was the atmosphere like there for you? Because that's what it felt like for me watching. I was just kind of like, the game was over and I was like, well, we whooped their ass, but it never really went like that. It was like this, and then it was just like that.
Yeah. So from being at there, I'll say this just to start, the atmosphere was definitely noticeably better than last week. And I think that's just because of the opponent. And there's not as many Carolina fans there. Like when it's a Giants game or a Jets game or a Cowboys, like there's going to be a lot of fans from the other team there. And there was like no Panthers fans. I think that's partially just it's a smaller fan base because of geographic reasons. And also they're really bad. So their fans are not coming out right now. But yeah, throughout the course of the game, like I'd say honestly that the fans everyone was sort of more like excited. I don't know if that's the right word, but they were more paying attention to the defense, I think. Like on defensive drives, that's when to me it felt like the fans were more engaged and more just kind of wanting to see what was happening. I think they kind of like what they saw from the defense last week, I guess. And they know how good the offense is. So on defensive drives, I kind of felt like everyone was a bit more engaged. That also may have had something to do with like Zach Thomas. It was we were honoring him that day, which was awesome to be there. Cool moment. He's always just the best speaking. He loves the fans. So that was great to see him there. And yeah, just kind of overall better atmosphere. I think the fans are really starting to get like juiced up and excited now, because like after this, like I believe the next home game's the Patriots, which even though they're terrible, that's still going to be a great crowd and a great atmosphere. And then after the bye week, I mean, like that's when the home games really start to pick up. I don't recall who our first one back is. I'm just
the Raiders, the Las Vegas, and I'm not. I don't know how well they travel, because again, I haven't like do the Patriots fans travels well? Do the Patriot fans travel well?
They would. I don't know about how, again, because they're pretty bad, but under normal circumstances, yeah, it'd be like kind of like 70-30 if the Dolphins were this good. And then if it's worse, it'd be like, could even be 60-40 or 50-50.
Right. And also Panthers, like they're like the fourth youngest franchise in the NFL. I think number one is the Texans. And then I think it's the Ravens, and then the Jaguars, and then the Panthers. So they're a very new franchise. And I know that may seem like almost 30 years, but it takes a while for so they're not like a big name franchise. But yeah, that's good but again, like as a viewer, I sat there and I was on a walk this morning, and, cause I like to go and like, I like to kind of like plan what I'm going to talk about and like do a podcast to kind of like practice what I'm going to say. And so I was on my walk, and I like sat there and took a moment, and I was like, something's wrong with me. And that might be like clipped. And like anytime I say some stupid crap, it's just going to be something's wrong. But like I sat there and I'm like, we held a team to 14 points and we scored 42 points. And I'm sitting here just like, not happy, because I'm happy we're 5-1. But like, I just sat there like, okay, like the game was over, and I was like, all right, you know what I mean?
I totally get what you're saying. And like, it's kind of just like, that was like the expected, like they didn't exceed your expectations. That's kind of like what you just expect from this Dolphins team right now against a bad opponent. Like the defense didn't give up a point after the first 14. The only other points given up were the Mike White pick six. So that's now 2 pick sixes against the Dolphins this year, which I guess if you were, those are going to happen. Hopefully you get them out of the way against the bad teams here. You don't want those coming in the big games. So that's good. But yeah, like I wasn't like, oh, that was such a great game. Even though if that was a normal game a couple years ago, I'd be like, this was the best Dolphins games I've ever watched. Right. But now it's kind of like, that's a standard performance. Like everyone did what they were supposed to do. Can't really pick out anything off the top of my head that was bad. If I want to nitpick, I certainly can. But like overall viewing experience, just great. But yeah, that's like the standard now, which is awesome.
But even that shit, like, I don't know how you feel, but for me, I think like they can be way better. That's what's crazy. And that's what's weird, is because I'm sitting there and I need to be appreciative of the wins. It sounds like we're in like a therapy session. I need to be appreciative of the wins, but at the same time, like, it's me knowing that like we don't have Teron, we don't have Connor, we don't have A-Chain, and we went a whole quarter without scoring, where you could have scored another 7-14, no problem. So I guess that's, I don't know, or maybe it's because we ended like with Mike White in there and he threw the pick six, and maybe that was just why I was like, I agreed with putting Mike White in there, but I was confused on why they were throwing it. I was like, just run it every play. Like if you don't get a first down, who cares? But speaking of the offense, I know we wanted to go with the offense. I just want to start off, I have this up here. I don't really think this paints the full picture. I know you sent me a couple of graphics. First one I want to bring up with the offense, because the defense we'll get into. I have a toxic relationship with the Dolphins defense at the current moment.
I think everyone does, even on the team. There's been some I don't know if you saw it, but Wilkins, they asked Wilkins like what he thought about Fangio, just basically being like the reason that he's kind of been rusty, like because he was holding out. And then Wilkins just was like, no comment. Like, and you would never see that from Wilkins where he's keeping his mouth shut. He'll say anything. He loves to talk.
So they were asking like, do you think it's because you held out? And he was like, no comment.
I think they were just like, what do you think about Vic Fangio's comments? Like, why, like him saying that about you? Do you think he's right? Like, do you think he's wrong? And yeah, he was just like, I'm having to talk about that, like about extension.
I don't know, man. It's just, it's anyway, ignore the top where it says screenshot. But so look at this graph. Like this is so for those that don't know, let me explain what this is. I put out a tweet earlier, which go follow both of us. Go follow the Dolphins Twitter page, Dolphins vs. World Twitter page. But this is a bar graph that I created. I felt so cool. I created a bar graph on Sheets on Google Drive. I felt like so cool. I was on YouTube. I was like, how to create a bar graph. Because someone, so I posted the tweet. Let me actually put up the original tweet if you don't mind real quick. So the original tweet I put up was, I was really just curious at looking at the Dolphins, where they were ranked now on offense, like after this game, because I'm going to check it week by week. So I wanted to check like, hey, where are the Dolphins after last week's performance? So I go on and I'm looking and I'm like, holy crap, they're like really good. And I was like, oh my God, the gap between them and the Eagles is huge. So here's the tweet. So in total yards of offense, the Dolphins are number 1, the Eagles are number 2. The gap is 622 yards. For reference, if you're like, is that a lot? Is that little? It seems like a lot. If you wanted to go 622 yards down from the Eagles, it would land you at the 20th offense in the NFL. So the gap between 1 and 2 is equivalent to the gap between 2 and 20, which is absurd on its own. But then someone commented on it and was like, turn this into a bar graph. That'd be really cool. And I was like, sure. And that's that. Like, look at the gaps between all the other teams. And then the Dolphins, it's just like astronomically higher. I mean, this offense right now is this is the greatest offense I've ever seen, regardless of the Dolphins. And statistically, they are showing that they are the best offense in the NFL in NFL history.
Yeah, like they're not the flashiest offense, even though they've had their fair share of flashy moments, but like they're not like the typical offense that has been popular the last few years, where it's like a broken play with Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers throwing, then he throws the ball to Jordy Nelson or Kelsey for 40 yards. Like that is what people have been like, this is the best offense in the NFL the last few years. So I think that's why the Dolphins haven't been getting its credit, because the reason the offense has been so good is the scheme is just like it's poetry. Like to not even be like dramatic here, for lack of a better word, but I mean it's just motion, like poetry in motion on the grass. Like the stuff Mike McDaniel's doing, it's just levels above like everyone else here.
And you can continue. I just want to put up, I'm going to put up the same tweet just with passing, rushing, and points per game, just to show you gaps. You can continue talking. I just wanted to explain to the viewers, like it's significant for all of them. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. And then the other thing that's even crazier is typically with like the number 1 offense in the league, when there's a bye week, like everyone will catch up and then they'll kind of be down and then they'll get their way back up. When the Dolphins have their bye week, like I don't think any teams, like they might close the gap. They'll still be like 200 yards short or something like that. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, and they could even widen this gap this week with the Eagles, which would be something. But I mean, if as long as Tua and Tyreek are healthy, and I'm not saying like Tyreek is not the whole reason for this offense, but like I'd be curious to see what would happen if he'd miss a game. Like if they just use Jalen Waddle and then switch it up. They're not deep at receiver enough to sustain a Tyreek Hill injury, but I still think the offense would be probably the best. Like I think Mike McDaniel's been that good. And then here's something which is so crazy. I sent it to you So here, let me get it up. Sorry. The Raheem Mostert is on pace to break LaDainian Tomlinson's TD record through the first third of the season. And that's not even with Raheem, not Raheem, Devon Achane has been just as good. People are saying better. Like, that's just Raheem. He's not been the only person getting the ball in this offense, rushing wise. But that's with on top of Tyreek Hill, who's on pace to break every receiving record, like get 2,500 yards. Tua is going to break like on pace. I don't think it's going to happen, just because I think when some of the games get tougher, they'll be a bit lower scoring. But like,
I'm about to pull it up. The tweet that you're referencing about Raheem Mostert. I mean, you and I said this. We said that the difference, like what makes Achane special, is not the ability to get yards. The thing that makes Achane special is his ability to take like a 20-yard run to the house, but the 20-yard run is still there. And like we saw, like Raheem is more physical than Achane. Like Raheem, he's shocking me of how like hard he is to tackle. And I mean, right here, I mean, you could talk about the tweet for sure, because I know you sent it over to me.
Yeah, just like to have to have one offensive player of the year candidate on your team is something the Dolphins haven't done in my life, maybe. To have two is like stuff teams aren't doing. Like, that's not happening. Like, unless it's the quarterback, but typically a quarterback and a receiver, typically the MVP award goes to a quarterback. That's just kind of how it is. And then the offensive player of the year goes to the best skill position, typically being a receiver, but running backs have certainly won it. And at this point in the year, I think it's kind of a two-horse main candidate race between Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill. I think there's other players that can get into the mix for sure, but right now I think those two have separated themselves as the clear 1-2. And then if Raheem was on another team, he'd probably be the third, just because what he's doing rushing is breaking LaDainian Tomlinson's TD record. And he could rush for, if the Dolphins weren't putting him on like a snap count for some of these games, I'd be so curious to see what he would do. Like, to even think, if this is with us benching like our star guys in the middle of the third quarter. Not this game. It was about the fourth.
Yeah, it was a fourth. But no, it's like when Tua was in college, and it was like Tua was putting up historic numbers, and he's not playing the fourth quarter. You know, a couple things that I want to talk about that you had just mentioned, that there were good points, and I want to touch on them. Number one, like, I see a lot of people. I let me just say this. I completely disagree with the take that Tyreek is the MVP of this offense. I completely disagree with it. And I'm sorry if that offends people, and it's okay if people disagree with me, but like, I'm sorry, but I've watched enough Dolphins football to know the Dolphins suck without Tua. Like, it's not like we're like, okay, the Dolphins can't win without Tua. The only game we won last year without Tua was against the Jets, and I think we scored 12, 15 points. It was something low like that. Like, it was a crap game anyway. Like, if Tua, let me ask you this, and this is kind of a rhetorical question, but I'd be curious your answer. You take out Tua Tagovailoa for the next 5 games, because I want to put in some really good teams in there and some bad teams in there. You take Tua out for the next 5 games. Do you think they have the same record as if they were to take Tyreek out for the next game? Because I think that if you take Tyreek out, you're going to have a better record than if you were to take Tua out. And that's what MVP means. Like,
yeah. So I just looked real quick. I would say without Tua, they could maybe win 1 game.
Right. The only game they're winning is they beat the Patriots, and then I don't know what the 2 weeks after the bye are. They're not beating the Jets. I'm sorry.
It's the Raiders and the Jets. Yeah. I don't
right. Like, no. Like, and I'm sorry. I know Dolphin fans, like, we want to root against the Jets, and I definitely root against the Jets, but like, their defense is incredible, dude. I watched that game against the Eagles, and I was like, holy crap. Like, they are very good. And it's a shame their offense is like lackluster.
I think they could
do deep.
Like
Dude,
seriously.
yeah. I think they're deep. Like when we go against them, that's going to be a very tough game. That's like I know that might upset fans because they're like crap on the Jets. It's like no, I'll crap on the Jets if I feel an opinion about them. But like if they're good, I'm going to call it out. So
They've
um
impressed me, honestly.
yeah,
Expectations
yeah,
were
they're
low, so maybe that's why, but they have been impressive.
right. Right. And I mean, you got Vic Fangio and let's see how it plays out. But like if anything doesn't happen with if Robert Saleh somehow does not find his way as a head coach and
I
Vic
think
Fangio,
great DC. I don't know about a head coach, so I don't think he's a very good.
right? And him and McDaniel are like really close friends, and the idea has been floated on some discords I've been involved with and stuff. So I don't know. Anyway, I just want to put that out there. But what I was trying to say is like the Dolphins are not going to beat. Like it's already going to be hard enough to beat the Eagles and the Chiefs, and even I'll put the Jets in there with Tua and Tyreek. You're not winning any game except maybe the Patriots game, and maybe let's just say the Raiders with Mike White in there.
Yeah.
Like you're not like with Tua in there. Really, let's be honest about the like. In my opinion, the Eagles game, and we're going to get to it a little bit here, but mainly next podcast. The Eagles game is going to come down to can the defense stop? Because this offense has pretty much held its own in every game. It's just the Bills game got out of hand because our defense was giving up 48 points, right? So, like, if Tua is not healthy, this season is over. If Tyreek is not healthy, it definitely makes the Dolphins a lot less impressive. But like, I hate the notion that like, oh, Tyreek Hill, just because Tyreek Hill is the best player on the team, that doesn't make him the MVP. The MVP award, and I've always felt this way, whether it's quarterbacks, the MVP award is not who wins the most. The MVP award is not who's the most talented person in the NFL or on your team. The MVP stands for most valuable player. And I don't know what's more valuable if you are a Miami Dolphin than literally you're not able to win without one guy, and that's Tua. Tyreek's stats without Tua, not nearly as good. Jalen's stats without Tua, not nearly as good. The Dolphins' record without Tua, significantly worse, very significantly worse, like very bad losing record without Tua. So I don't know how people will say like, you know, Tua is the most important person to this offense. Like I'm not saying that he's the best. He's obviously not nearly as good as Tyreek as a quarterback, as a wide receiver. But to me, your quarterback's the most important person to your offense, unless you're like the Giants with Saquon and the 49ers with McCaffrey. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then talking about Tua, I'd be curious what you saw from being home. I think he's done a pretty, this is kind of also speculation. I don't know. I'm not in the mind of Tua or the team, but I thought it was interesting how McDaniel said how he called his own play with the deep shot to Tyreek last week. And I think he did it again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if he did do it again, I think this is a great way of him like being able to self-evaluate. And I don't think this is without the help of McDaniel or anything. Like this isn't all Tua, but he knows like he can't launch it 40 yards or 60 yards downfield. He can launch it 40. But so he's doing a good job of knowing when that's available, like to keep the defense honest with the deep shots. He's taking it, and look, it's working. So when you do stuff like that and can put it in to Tyreek when he's, you know, could even still jog, honestly, you don't have to hit him in perfect stride. It's going to be a touchdown if you get this.
Well, yeah, like that's what I'm saying though. Like Mike White's not doing that. Mike White is not changing the play at the line of scrimmage to a different play. He doesn't have that chemistry with Tyreek. And even like that play, like you had mentioned, like Tua doesn't throw the ball 60, which is true. Like, I think I've said this on the podcast, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like Tua sometimes will make the same throw look harder. And I'm not sure what that is about. Again, I'm not claiming to like know about quarterback fundamentals, but like he made that 41-yard pass look effortless. He was just like, boom, easy, like right on the money. But then sometimes he'll like put everything he has into a 40-yard pass. And I'm like, I don't quite understand what's happening there. And even that play, like Tyreek is beating Dante Jackson, who runs a 4.32, and he like smokes him. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like Tyreek's very talented, but this stuff isn't happening with Mike White in there. And I think it's just people being like, who's the most valuable player? It's Tyreek because he's the most talented player in the NFL, maybe NFL history. No, that's not what the MVP is. The MVP is, without them, would you suck? Yes. The answer is yes with Tua. You would not suck without Tyreek Hill. Would you be as good? No. Would you be historic? No. But without Tua, you would be like, I don't care about the talent. Without Tua, you would be what?
Maybe 500.
like right now we would have lost to the Chargers, and we would have lost. We'd have at least two more losses.
Patriots, honestly.
We would have at least one or two more losses because you're not beating I'm sorry, you're not beating the Patriots with Mike White. No. You're not there, but I still have respect for their defense. Like you're not. So anyway, I digress.
One thing we don't know yet about Mike McDaniel is he like, he is a Shanahan disciple and everything. So their ability, like Kyle Shanahan's ability to just get anything out of any quarterback, like no matter who it is second to none. I'd be curious if McDaniel had that, like if he could maximize what Mike White brings to the table. I don't know if he can. I hope we don't ever have to find out, but I'd be curious to see it. So that's another thing when like you're like, oh, Tua, we'd still be okay without Tua. Like we don't know how far the drop off is. Like who's to say we'd get anything good out of Mike White? It could be Mike White being terrible. Like I don't even. The only reason people think he's good is because he like threw the ball around for the Jets, but they were so like they had to watch Zach Wilson for 2 years. They think anything was good.
Right. I mean, and even that, like people say, like the Shanahans can make any like they can't make any quarterback look good. Like the Shanahans elevate if you are already good. Like Brock Purdy is good, is a very good quarterback. Is he I can do everything? Like I don't like that argument. Just because Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen can win games on their own does not mean that's how you should win. There's a reason why. First of all, Patrick Mahomes doesn't win games on his own. Shocker. He's arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. He's easily the best quarterback in the NFL right now. However, to think that he hasn't benefited from Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and the best offensive line in football and a top 2 defense, you're shitting yourself. Like, what are we talking about here? So I hate this notion that like you have to be able to win games on your own in order to be elite. Like that's blasphemous to me. But like the Shanahans elevate good quarterbacks, but like they couldn't elevate Trey Lance because he's not good. And like Mike White, like, yeah, you could elevate him to play the best football he could possibly play. But Tua is here without Shanahan or McDaniel. Mike White's here. If I elevate Tua and I elevate Mike White, there's still a gap. It's not like Mike White's all like anyone who plays this system can do what Tua does. It's just like if you don't watch film, then stop talking or you don't even have to watch film. It's just like if you're an idiot, just don't talk about it. Like I don't know what to tell you, but like Mike White cannot do what Tua does. I don't know why that's an argument, but anyway, this offense is incredible, and I don't know what you want to get to next. I apologize for ranting. If you want to get defense
I just wanted to give some flowers also to some other players. Jalen Waddle finally not contributing, but he wasn't not contributing before, but he's definitely getting into action now. I mean, touchdowns in back-to-back games is awesome to see. I thought who else played a pretty good game? I mean, honestly, it was just a solid game, like all around. There's definitely one name we gotta get to. Big criticism here has been lobbed at Liam Eichenberg, not just from us, but from everyone. But he was totally fine. I mean, I'll call it like I see it. He had a fine game. That's also partially just due to circumstances. Everyone around him on our O-line is playing so well, and their D-line is banged up. But hey, man, this is something he hasn't been able to do before. Anytime you have a game that clean, was good. There was still a few plays. Like I'd be curious when you go back to watch the all 22 if you see it. There was just one player he was like hugging someone like a second into the play on a run play. So he still had his moments from what I saw there. But yeah, I mean, I was trying to pay attention, and I was like, he's doing fine. I mean, nothing's wrong. So credit to him. Finally, a much needed for him game to build some confidence, I think, because he's clearly not going anywhere for the rest of the year, unfortunately, for the Dolphins. But
yeah.
off it.
I mean, definitely a better game. Definitely a better game, without a doubt. A better game from what happened last week with the Giants, and really every time we've seen him play. Definitely better. Is it sustainable? No. You're not gonna like. I saw someone. I think maybe who was it? Someone said like, let's see if he can do it against the Eagles. If Liam Eichenberg is playing with the Eagles, like, there's never no chance you can win a game because it's the NFL. But like, if Liam Eichenberg plays, you're screwed. Let's just put it that way. I again, I applaud him. He did a better job. It's still not even close to Connor Williams, but he did. It's not like Kendall Lamb to me, where it's like, oh, he's actually like good. Like, it's like, yeah, you didn't suck today. Thank you. But I will again. I'm going to give them their props as an offensive line total. Tua right now, and I don't know if you saw this, but I went on. I looked this up. I did all the research with it. The Dolphins are on pace. We've given up 6 sacks in 6 games. Now, a little bit of that's skewed because we gave up 4 in one game against the Bills. They're currently on pace, 1 sack a game. There's 17 games in the NFL, 17 sacks. The Dolphins haven't had that few of sacks since 1989. Okay, so Butch Berry and this offensive line is doing a great job. Tua is doing a great job of recognizing where to go with the football. McDaniel's doing a great job of making it hard for defenders to just rush Tua. So yeah, like, I'll give the offensive line its props. You need Connor Williams versus the Eagles to even hope to win. Like, if Connor Williams is there, it's still going to be incredibly hard. But you at least can do a lot more stuff. There was a play where Raheem had an end around. Liam, the all-22 just came out of it. I saw it on Twitter. And Liam just completely missed the first block that he was supposed to make. He was supposed to make the block closer to Raheem, and then Julian Hill was going to drift downfield and block. I think it was the safety. He went right to the safety, and then Julian Hill had nowhere to go, and Raheem got tackled for like a 5-yard gain instead of like what could have been a 30-40. So that's the difference between Connor Williams and Liam. But yeah, certainly a better game for sure from him than last week.
And then the only person I just kind of want to say I was a little disappointed in, just because, and this is really, really, really nitpicking, just because there's so little to be upset about. But I thought Jalen Phillips kind of still waiting for him to make his impact felt this season. It did not, like, and we were getting sacks like crazy, and I was like, oh, he's going to get it. Now he's finally going to hopefully build some stats here for the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean, just didn't feel him like he was there. Van Ginkel moving back to middle linebacker was noticeable. Like, you could tell that he was missed on the edge there, which is crazy to say. It just insane to say, honestly. But yeah, what did you kind of think and see?
I hope someone doesn't like record this and post it. I don't care what people think of it, honestly. Andrew Van Ginkel is better than Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb right now. I'm not saying that he's more talented. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you can say whatever you want about Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips, I've gotten to the point where 3 seasons in, I know he's dealing with the injuries now. Maybe a tad overrated. I'm just going to say that. Don't get on me and say that I think he sucks. I think this. Jalen Phillips does not take over games the way Micah Parsons does, the way Myles Garrett does, the way TJ Watt does, the way Max Crosby does, the way Nick Bosa does. He does not. He never has. I don't want to hear he's dealt with injuries. He's never taken over games like that. And we have to get to the point where we take away the talent, take away the incredible person and teammate he is, and just look at the production. And if you look at the production, he is at best our second best defensive end on the team. And that's only because Bradley Chubb has been that disappointing. But like, yeah, I guess we're now transitioning into the defense. Man, I know we gave up 14 points, but right now Vic Fangio is doing some crap on the defense that is just not, like, I say that with all the humility and all the respect in the world because he knows more football than you and I will know in 12 lifetimes. But at the same time, like, stop putting Andrew Van Ginkel at linebacker. Stop it. Like, I don't know if you saw the explanation he gave, because I was expecting like, hey, why'd you put Andrew Van Ginkel linebacker? So let me just give you a story, and then I'm curious because you've never heard this. I want to hear your reaction to this. So he went into his press conference. This was like before the game. It was like 5 days ago. And he was asked, what made you want to switch Andrew Van Ginkel to inside linebacker? And this was his answer. I was expecting what are you expecting? You're expecting him to say like, man, I saw some stuff that I was like,
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, this is what he said. And I'm paraphrasing, but I'm getting the gist across of exactly verbatim. He said, well, I watched the film, just passing by, saw some film of him, and I was like, oh, I saw some traits that would translate to inside linebacker. So I asked an assistant to chop up a bunch of film and a bunch of plays that would translate of stuff that I could watch that might help me realize if he can translate or not. And he came after watching all of it. He said, I came away from it thinking probably not, but I had a hunch, so I'm going to go with it. So I'm like, okay. I know you're really smart. I think I make a lot of smart decisions. I've made so many dumb decisions, like so stupid because of a feeling I had or a hunch I had. Like, you can't go off the hunch. Like, maybe you just had bad milk. I don't know what it is, but point is, the feeling was wrong, clearly. I'm not saying that because I know football. I'm just saying it because you put him at edge and he was really good, and now you put him back at inside linebacker. And to me, it's just like, it's stuff like that. It's stuff like, finally he put Deshaun Elliott instead of Brandon Jones. Thank God he fixed that. But like Cam Smith, one of two things, dude. And sorry, I don't mean to continue because I'm curious what your thoughts are on the Andrew Van Ginkel thing. Cam Smith is either one of two things. He's either being stubborn with Cam Smith, or we screwed up and Cam Smith is that bad. I don't think it's that, because I watched him against the same players in garbage time at the end when they were passing like crazy, and he did better than Eli Apple. Like, Cam Smith has to either suck or Vic Fangio is just being stubborn, because there's no excuse. You and I both said this. You're playing two crappy teams against the Giants and the Panthers that cannot throw the football. This is when you put Cam Smith in there and see what he can do. And he did not. And it's just stuff like that that is pissing me off. But we only gave up 14 points.
Yeah, I think it's all fair points. First, my thoughts about the Andrew Van Ginkel thing is, it just kind of seems maybe, I guess, arrogant is the word I'm looking for, but I don't want to like use it like that, because I don't mean it like, I don't think he's arrogant, but it's been tried before, like, and it hasn't worked. I don't know what he's doing. I kind of think, truth be told, my honest opinion that I'm kind of being hopeful for in my mind is, if you noticed with the Chiefs and the Patriots, more so when they kind of had sustained success and Vic Fangio has been around so long, they kind of almost use the regular season as like a pseudo entire preseason. Like, you're trying new stuff, sometimes it doesn't work out, but then you find a way in the playoffs, and in the playoffs, that's when your best stuff shows up. Like the Chiefs defense, like all last season wasn't great, but then in the playoffs, I mean, they were fantastic throughout the playoffs. Then Patrick Mahomes hurt his ankle, and then the Chiefs defense really stepped up even more. So I kind of would like to think that he's using the regular season, these games specifically, and the start, to just see what he has and kind of figure it out, and then go from there. With Van Ginkel, that'd be my explanation. With Cam Smith, I have no idea what's going on there. If they just are like Eli Apple, he was good in college and was drafted high, it's going to work eventually. Like, I don't know what's going on, but boy, let me tell you, I could see AJ Brown going for like 200 plus yards, 250 yards this week. And if he doesn't, it's going to be Devonta Smith. Like, this is going to be a tall task for the Dolphins secondary. that has not been able to do anything well this season, really.
Well, it's just really vanilla to me. Like, it's just really like there's no one thing I will say about like the Brian Flores and Josh Boyer is like, even though I didn't like it at times, and it wasn't really the defense, it was again like the situational awareness. There's differences. Vic Fangio has the situational awareness. He has it. We've seen it with the defense. But like Josh Boyer would call like it's like 3rd and goal at the 10-yard line, and he has all of the cornerbacks at the goal line at the goal line. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand why you do this. But yeah, just like again, I don't understand it. And these past 2 weeks were a perfect time for like you're going to beat the Giants and the Panthers if Cam Smith is starting and accidentally gives up a touchdown. Like he needs to get the reps. And now I guess what? When are you going to wait for the bye week? When Jalen Ramsey's back? When like that's it. He's done. So that was your opportunity. The only other game I could see him coming in is if Eli Apple gets roasted, which unfortunately will probably happen because I don't know if you saw X is injured with the groin. So
I did not see that, but that seems like it's been every year.
Right. So if he gets injured, or if Eli Apple's having to guard AJ Brown, he's going to get destroyed. So the only thing I could think of is if Cam Smith played for 2 games, like one against the Patriots and then the Chiefs, even though Patrick Mahomes is a dude, they don't have any wide receivers. So that'd be a game you could start him in. But like, I don't know, man, the defense, I just have a toxic relationship with them because I'm not happy with them. But they're also like getting better. But I don't know. We'll see what happens this week because, there's so many levels to this game. And I don't know if you want to use this to transition into this next game real quick, just for like 5 minutes before we close out. But like this game coming up is huge. You're playing a Super Bowl team. It's the biggest game you've played all season. And like you need to be on your P's and Q's the whole entire time. Vic Fangio knows the offense, but like their defensive coordinator, Sean Desai, is Vic Fangio's disciple, so he knows the defense. Tua and Jalen Hurts are going to be like going at it because they're friendly competitors and they want to up each other. Is Connor Williams playing? Is they like there's so many levels to this game. And man, like I think this honestly is probably so far maybe the biggest game in the NFL so far. Maybe the 49ers Cowboys was about similar, but I would say you're getting arguably the best team in the AFC versus arguably the best team in the NFC in a clash on Sunday Night Football. Big game.
Big time football, which it has been a while since the Dolphins. I mean, gosh, I don't even know if we've ever had a regular season game this big besides like clinching playoff games at the end of the year, the few we've had. But yeah, about the defense, just real quick, and then we'll transition to the Eagles. Just one quick thing. Yeah, I don't put too much stock into these last 2 weeks. I think it's hard to use that as a data point because they're just so bad. I mean, the Giants were moving the ball against the Bills. So I guess maybe you could give the Dolphins defense a bit of credit, but the Panthers offense hasn't been able to do anything. Like it's tough for me to upgrade the defense at all. But this week is a big week for them. If I see some good signs, I'll be very encouraged about what could happen in the future. But yeah, like you said, this is a massive game, as big as it gets in the regular season for a non-conference game. Like this is going to be a highly watched game. The only games that may be more watched this season are going to be like the Taylor Swift games. But yeah, I mean, the Eagles are banged up for this game, so that's good for the Dolphins. Obviously, not rooting for the injuries or anything like that. But anytime, guys like Jalen Carter, Lane Johnson are showing up on the injury report and are questionable to doubtful to play, like Quez Watkins, I don't know if he's going to be going. Their secondary has been banged up with Darius Slay. Like we'll see as the injury report follows. It's something to follow closely. But if this Eagle team is banged up, the Dolphins got to capitalize. Without Lane Johnson playing tackle, you have to expect a big game out of Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, whoever's going against him. like these guys are Bradley Chubb's paid as a big time player. This is a big time game. Jalen Phillips wants to be paid as a big time player and thinks he's a big time player. This is a big time game. This is where you go earn your money. And if you're playing against a backup, you have to capitalize and be a complete force out there. And I don't know what that is in this game yet, because obviously Jalen Hurts is mobile and can, get out of the pocket and create with his legs. So I don't know what that is, but you should be dominating the matchup there in a game of this caliber.
You would hope. I mean, like, we're going to see what happens. I'll say this. If the Dolphins can beat the Eagles, like, okay, so we have the two teams that were in the Super Bowl last year just happened to be played 2 weeks apart for the Dolphins. Yippee. Can't wait. However, I see a lot of people saying, like, if you lose to the Eagles or if you lose to the Chiefs, you suck. Like, no, like, I'm not sitting here. I'm just going to say this, and not to give a foreshadow. Like, I'm not going to pick the Dolphins to win. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm going to hope they win, but like, I don't need you to win to prove to, like, last year against the Bills in Buffalo proved to me more than, like, yeah, obviously I wanted them to win, but like, just because they lost didn't mean I was like, you suck, right? Losing 48 to 20. Now that sucks, right? But losing by a last second field goal, no. So like, if you can make it a good game, like, no one's sitting here saying the Eagles suck because they lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It was a great game. So you just need to make it a good, respectable game for the audience and for us. And like, if you can make it respectable with both of those games and try to win one, I think the Chiefs team could be a team that surprises and we get a victory. But like, if you could win one of those games, I will believe in this team as a Super Bowl contender, but you have to make it respectable. And to me, really the only way I see us winning, especially the Eagles game, just staying with this week, is if our defense shows up. If our defense is going to go out there and give up 30, you can't expect this Dolphins offense every week to be historic. You can't. So it's all going to be on the defense this week. So we'll see what Vic Fangio's got, but this is why you're hired. You're hired to stop the Super Bowl the Super Bowl not Super Bowl champions, the Super Bowl representatives for the NFC. You're hired to do that. You're hired to stop the Bills. You're 0-1 right now in that. So that's why you were hired. Let's see what you're able to do. Guys better show up because, again, we're 5-1 now. You got 3 games coming up. If you lose 2 of them, yeah, you're still 6-3. Hopefully you can beat the Patriots, but Bills probably aren't going to lose a game until our bye week. That puts them in first now. So, we'll see what happens, but it's a huge game anyway.
Yeah, I quite honestly, I kind of think I haven't dove too deep into it, but I think this is just a bad matchup for the Dolphins in a lot of areas. So I wouldn't be surprised if they lost. But like you said, like I just want to see, like, when you're watching a game, you don't have to win to walk away from it to be like, we're good here. Like, this is a legit team. Like, I'm confident in this team in the future. Like, I've seen plenty of times where, not just from the Dolphins, but a ton of teams where I'm like, well, that team's a lot better than people think they are. And that's kind of just how I like to watch football. Like, that team's a lot better or a lot worse than people are giving them credit for. I always try to think about that from my perspective. But yeah, if you got something to say, go ahead, and then I'll say something else here.
Well, no, the Eagles are number 2 offense and defense. But like, here's the thing. If Zach Wilson, like, their defense is incredible, but our offense is incredible. And if they have a good defense and offense, and we have a good offense and defense, it's about the same. That you should be able to beat them. I'm sorry, like, the Jets did it. You should be able to beat them. You're more talented. You're playing better. You should be able to beat them. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, and so there's a narrative that people are setting the seeds for it. You could tell already. But if the Dolphins lose this game, like, and lose it in convincing fashion, a lot of people are like, well, they can only beat the bad teams. So it's another thing, like, but I'm not that I'm going to even disagree with it. Like, last year, the only really good team they beat that comes to mind off the top of my head was the Ravens, which was like just a ferocious comeback of epic historic proportions. But yeah, I mean, that'd be a narrative that's going to be floated out there if the Dolphins lose, like, oh, they're good at beating up on the bad teams or the average teams, but they can't do it to the good ones. That could be also changed though if the Chargers just win tonight. Then I think people would be like, the Chargers are good. It's a week-to-week league in the NFL. Opinions change fast. I mean, look, people a couple of weeks ago thought the Patriots could be contenders in the AFC East, possibly, at least dark horse contenders. And now they're in fighting for Caleb Williams, it looks like. Oh yeah. Was McDaniel mic'd up? Have you saw any of it yet?
No. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just saw it on Twitter just now that the Dolphins posted like a teaser of it. That's going to be good. I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. So
yeah, it's going to be great. But yeah, I mean, last kind of closing thoughts about this game, big picture, and then we'll wrap up here. Yeah, the matchup defensively, like, I think our offense should be able to exploit their weaknesses in the secondary right now. I think this may turn into a track meet, and we may be able. I think the way we can win is if it's a track meet and it's like a 35-31 game like the Chargers was. I think that'd be the way to victory here, actually. Just because I don't know. I'm going to have to see it to believe it with this defense. I almost am now taking out the performance against the Patriots just because of what other teams have been able to do to them. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It looks like their offense is pathetic.
yeah.
So it's a lot of interesting facets. Like you said, if some of our key guys miss, I'd be really concerned. If some of their key guys miss, I think they should be really concerned. It's a fun game to break down, honestly, and especially since these teams like haven't played each other outside of the preseason game, which was an interesting, matchup that can look back to. The Dolphins had some success in it from all accounts. But yeah, I mean, it's a really fun game to break down, and I'm excited to do it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like we talked about it obviously on this episode, almost like for 20 minutes, because it is a huge matchup, and you kind of need like 1.5 episodes to talk through it, unless they want like an 1.5 hour podcast episode next time. But yeah, I mean, we're 5-1. I to me, the good teams are able to beat good teams and they stomp bad teams. And right now, the Dolphins have accomplished one of those, stomping bad teams. In order to prove you're an elite team, you have to be able to beat good teams. And I consider the Chargers a good team. You beat them. And, you got manhandled by the Bills. So we're going to see what happens in this game. But certainly it is a huge matchup. I think if you're going to win it, it's going to be in similar to fashion to the Super Bowl, right? Chiefs, Eagles, similar to that, where I just don't see them stopping the Eagles. So it's going to be up to 2 in the offense. But specifically just focusing on this past week, you score 42 points, offense is historic. And really the main thing above all of that is Tua is healthy and he's not getting hit a lot. And he's just playing sensational football. So hopefully it rolls over and continues. And again, you have a game coming up now on Sunday Night Football where this is, you and I watch all the games. You and I, listener, watch all the games. We know everything about the Dolphins. The average NFL fan does not. All they know is this offense is really good. Now they are going to see it with their own eyes. So you need to come out and show people what you're made of. So, we'll talk about it more in depth. Definitely keep an eye on the injuries, but, we're 5-1, so enjoy it while obviously it happens.
Yeah. And that's going to be a great atmosphere, which the Dolphins so far haven't been great in these big road games. But man, that is, that's a scary place to play. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back here to do more detailed breakdown and preview of the game and give some predictions here coming up. But from us at Dolphins vs. World, like, share, comment, subscribe, give your thoughts, and fins up. Let's keep this rolling.
Woo.